Hey everyone, it's me Lone, hope you're doing well, and today we had some pretty big news come out about Fallout 76. Bethesda Game Studios is bringing on a brand new developer to help with development of the title and creating new content moving forward. And today we're going to be covering all the information that you need to know, in addition to me sharing my thoughts. So if you enjoy this video, please like it, I would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new, and also consider supporting me on some of my other social media platforms like Twitter, all of which are linked in the description below. So with all that out of the way, let's get to the content. Okay, so first up, let's summarize the news before I get into my thoughts. The company that Bethesda Game Studios is bringing on to help with developing Fallout 76 is one known as Double 11. Double 11, if you don't know who they are a company or developer based out of the UK that have essentially been brought on in the past by other publishers such as Microsoft to help with creating new content for games. And some of the games that are part of their repertoire include Rust, Minecraft Dungeons, This Is Pool, Crackdown 3, and so on. So they have somewhat of a kind of track record when it comes to relatively big games, and they also have released a press release today about this news on their website. I will link it in the description below if you want to read it for yourself, but let me just read the main bits verbatim and then we'll get into my thoughts. So the press release itself is entitled Adventure Awaits in the Wastelands of Fallout 76, and it goes on to say, at Double 11, we've made a name working with some of the biggest developers and publishers in the world. We are excited to be able to announce publicly that we've recently begun working with Bethesda Game Studios to create new challenges for players of Fallout 76. Bethesda and Double 11 began speaking in late 2020, and since then we've worked together on a host of exciting new content that will be enjoyed by the passionate community of fans later in 2022. It's a privilege to be trusted to work on one of the most iconic franchises in gaming history, Double 11 CEO Lee Hutchinson said. The team we've assembled to work on Fallout 76 are so passionate about the series, working with Bethesda is a dream come true. We've loved working on this game so far, and from small beginnings, our team is expanding as we plan to develop more content in the future, so keep an eye on our careers page for more information on open roles across all disciplines. And yes, to emphasize the point as well, on Twitter today, we had a bunch of developers from Double 11 talk about, one, how excited they are to be able to work on Fallout 76, and also two, yes, how they are hiring heavily across those positions. Okay, so I know that was a lot to digest, so let me just break down this news and share my thoughts specifically in terms of whether I think this is good for the future of Fallout 76. And let me be very clear, I want to be kind of upfront with all of you. I did know about this news prior to it being announced, and it obviously was something that I couldn't talk about, but I don't want to act like I was completely surprised or blindsided because I had prior knowledge, and only now I'm able to talk about it publicly. So I'm not going to share any other inside information or anything like that, but I just want to share my general thoughts. So, putting aside the developer itself and in terms of whether Double 11 is actually a good fit for Fallout 76 first, I do want to talk about the general kind of concept or idea that Bethesda is bringing on a third-party developer to help with creating new content for Fallout 76. First of all, I think that in and of itself it means that Bethesda clearly appreciates that they haven't had enough staff to work on this game, and they don't have enough people to create a sufficient amount of content for the game moving forward into the future. If they had enough staff at Bethesda Game Studios, particularly in the Austin office, if they had enough staff to create this content, then they wouldn't be hiring anyone else, right? They wouldn't be bringing on a third-party developer to help with creating new content. That in and of itself makes it very clear Bethesda was aware of the problem, and anyone looking at their roadmap and how slowly content has been coming out for this game could easily make that assumption as well. We were very well aware, and I literally just made a video about this. We were all very well aware that content for Fallout 76 had come to a very, very slow pace and was releasing not fast enough to kind of keep community members and players of Fallout 76 content. So it's a good thing that they've appreciated that, and it's a good thing that they've tried to thought of ways around it. And I'm sure people are just thinking at the moment, well, why didn't they just hire more people at Bethesda Game Studios Austin instead of just bringing on an external developer in the form of Double 11? I think the reason for that is because it's very hard to scale up quickly at a company, right? It takes a very long time and a lot of money to hire the right people in the right places. You can't just, and I know people say this all the time, just hire more people to work on the game. You can't just hire 50 people or 100 people in a matter of 6 months at a company like BGS or any other developer, mind you. It takes forever to find the right people, and sometimes they're not the right fit. There's so many things that go into it. Sometimes, yes, it is just easier for companies and developers to outsource, because if there is a developer or a company like Double 11 that has long been set up to be able to do this kind of content, to be able to help companies like Microsoft as well in this kind of way, it's kind of that easy decision. Maybe it costs Bethesda a little bit more money, but it's much easier on them as opposed to them trying to hire and bring on the people themselves. So I think that's why they've gone down that path and why they've decided to go with a third-party developer. So don't try and read into that too much. I don't think it's because they didn't want to do it. I think it's because it's genuinely hard, and it's the way that the games industry works at the moment. Outsourcing is a very, very popular thing to do, right? So I think that's the first thing that you can say about that. But second of all, I think this news makes it kind of blatantly obvious as to where Bethesda Game Studios' priorities are as a developer and as a company right now. And if it wasn't obvious already, I think this makes it even more clear that Starfield is their priority, that a lot of people within BGS are starting to move on to work on Starfield. And that's obviously happened for a very long time. I would probably say, maybe since Wastelanders, when content on Fallout 76 started to slow down, that was probably the stage where people within BGS were brought on to work on Starfield. And obviously Starfield is going to be a massive title. It's not just Bethesda's biggest title this year. It's their biggest title probably since Fallout 4. It's going to be massive for them. And projects like that are a complete resource sink in developers and in companies. They need everyone to work on those games to ensure that they're correct, especially in the last kind of like 6 months, even up to a year prior to launch. More and more people, more and more developers are going to be brought onto that title to ensure it's in a good state when it comes to launch and to make sure that it actually is a success, right? They need as much help as possible. So I think if anything, this news just says, yes, Bethesda Game Studios knows where their priority is. It's Starfield. That's where the focus needs to be. And yes, perhaps some developers within BGS Austin, especially after this news, are going to slowly work on Starfield. And pretty much at launch, I would say, I think the safe assumption is most people at BGS, and maybe even other people within the Bethesda family, id Software, etc., I think a lot of those devs are going to be working on Starfield because that's where the money is and that's where the resource needs to be directed, okay? And kind of the third thing as well, at the very least, this is a good thing for the future of 76 in terms of Mark Tucker recently said that they had a 5-year plan for Fallout 76, right? They had these things that they want to do. He was very vague in that statement, but generally they have a 5-year plan for the game, but they knew in and of themselves that they couldn't achieve that on their own, right? Especially when you have, again, titles like Starfield and whatever else they're working on, especially when you have games like that need to take other people's attentions and take the resources of developers internally. So in order to actually achieve that vision, something needed to change, and this was the thing that needed to happen, for them at least, in their eyes, to be able to make that happen. But then the question comes naturally, whether Double 11 itself is the best fit, is the right developer to be working on content for Fallout 76 moving forward. And let me be very clear, I do not have first-hand experience with Double 11 as a developer or the content they've created for other companies, right? Especially with Rust and Minecraft Dungeons, which seem to be the two biggest and most recent examples that we can go off. I do not have experience with those games or even the content that they developed. So all I can really do is go off of what I've read online today and just from, what I've heard from people. And what I've seen is kind of mixed at the moment. When we look at Rust, apparently their work on Rust had a bit of a rough launch, although who knows what contributed to that, but apparently they were porting the game or something like that to console, and they had a rough launch, but eventually they worked their way into it, and I saw a few community members that were actually happy with the content that they produced for Rust, but then I saw some people that weren't so happy and don't like the state of Rust today. Again, that can be a million other things contributing to that, but that's at least what I saw for Rust. But I can say confidently that what I've heard from their work on Minecraft Dungeons is that it's been alright, is that it's been decent. And I do want to emphasize the point that there is no way Bethesda Game Studios would have brought on Double 11 and had the confidence for them to create content for Fallout 76 if Microsoft internally didn't have nice things to say about them. If Double 11 did a shit job on Minecraft Dungeons, didn't hit their goals, didn't create good content for that game, and eventually, earn good revenue when it came to that content for Minecraft Dungeons, do you think that Microsoft would have recommended them to Bethesda Game Studios? It would not have happened at all, right? There needed to have been a good relationship there for Microsoft to be like, hey, BGS, they're actually a good fit, you should talk to them. That's probably how the discussion happened in the first place, right? If there was a bad relationship or if they created crap content for Minecraft Dungeons, it would not have happened at all. Trust me, okay? So at the very least, just that in and of itself, you need to have some level of confidence that yes, they have done a somewhat decent job in the past when it comes to specifically Minecraft Dungeons, and that's why they're there. but we still don't know. Like, they could be a good fit for Fallout, they could not be. The first big test is going to be the Nuka World on Tour content later this year, because they did say in their press release they've already started working on content for Fallout 76. And if you actually look at some of the data mined leaks for that game, you can see some of their work in the code on Nuka World on Tour specifically. I don't know whether they're going to be working on the pit or expeditions, but at the very least, we're going to see some of their work in Nuka World on Tour. So that's going to be their first big test. We're all going to play that and be able to judge them to see whether we're actually happy and like the content that they're creating. Because if it's a success and if they do really well and everyone in the community is happy, you can be sure that they're going to be creating content even more moving forward into the future. And if I was to have a guess, like if Expeditions to the Pit is really good and if Nuka World on Tour is pretty good, we're probably going to have Expeditions another area, right? Like I said in the comments of my last video that I would love to see Expeditions Capital Wasteland. Just use the pre-existing map. I don't care how you do it. Bring it in and just let us explore the Capital Wasteland and create a brand new map. That's what I really want to see for the future of Fallout 76. I think that's actually going to make the game amazing again. Charge me for it. I don't care. That's what I would personally like to see. But yeah, those are my thoughts about this news. I know it's something big to take in. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and let's get to the conclusion of this video. Alrighty, Wastelanders, that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, as I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And until next time, this has been Lone. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.